Hi, this is Jeff from the Ozark Mountains in Missouri, USA. Well, today I've got an unexpected day off of work on account of the 142 feet of snow that we're supposed to get, which we didn't actually get. But anyhow, thought I'd take advantage of the time to get some work done around the shop. Today I've got a Panasonic JU-455 series 5¼ inch disk drive. This is a 360K unit and is a little brother to the Panasonic JU-475 series, which is the 1.2 megabyte unit. This one I just got in yesterday, and it was shipped like this. So I'm not extremely thrilled about that. This was supposedly working, so the first thing I'm going to do before bothering taking it apart and cleaning it up is to make sure it is actually still working. For that, I'm going to use this little gadget, the Supercard Pro. What this does is interfaces an old style 5¼ 3.5 inch floppy disk drive to your modern PC over a serial link, and it comes with software that allows you to take images of your old disk, just about any format, and using the Supercard Pro software or some additional software, convert that into working images. I've just finished using it to archive all my old 5¼ inch floppies from when I was a kid. That was about 135 floppies. Some of those are two-sided. And it was a pretty quick process with this. And it recovered floppies that I couldn't do with the Zoom floppy and the regular Commodore drive. So we'll use this to test out this drive, see if it works, and then we'll jump in and clean it up, and we'll come back to the Supercard Pro and see how it works. All right. Let's jump in. Hi, this is Jeff from tomorrow. As I was editing this video, I realized that I may not have been exceptionally clear about the purpose of this video. And what I'm trying to do with this video is just show using the Supercard Pro to diagnose or troubleshoot a floppy drive. And in a future video, I will go more into detail on using the Supercard Pro to actually image disk. Okay, let's jump in. Okay, here's our basic setup. We have the drive that we're going to test. We've got a power supply. Now for these 5¼ inch drives, you need 5 volts and 12 volts. I've got this unit, which has the correct plug on it, and it came with a testing kit for testing hard drives and such, and it works out real good for this situation. We'll plug this guy in. And we're going to plug in our ribbon cable. This is your standard floppy ribbon cable from back in the day. I'm going to use the drive connector from the Untwisted, so this should be device 1. And one important part here is, like in the case of this cable, this doesn't have the polarizing bump on here. So we're going to look for the red stripe, the arrow right here, and that should go toward pin 1 on this corner of the Supercard Pro. If you get that plugged in backwards, it might blow things up. Now, check that even if your cable does have the polarizing notch, because some of them are wrong. Some of the connectors on drives were wrong because they were special. And then the rest of it is a mini USB cable. Okay, so we'll apply some power. Now we've got computer power, or USB power rather. And I forgot one very important thing for testing this out. That is a floppy disk. So I will be right back. Okay, fair warning. If you're testing out a floppy drive, make sure you're using a floppy disk that you're not going to cry if you lose. These two I sacrificed trying to resurrect another Panasonic JU-475, which somebody had fiddled with enough they ruined one of the heads. So these two are bad, but they were backup cath records, which, you know, don't have any use for these days, especially since they run over my calves. And this one should be okay. It looks decent and it's not dirty, so we'll put it in there. This is the Supercard Pro software. It has 3 main screens. This is the disk editor and analyzer, which is one of the more involved screens that lets you get down to the nitty-gritty of a disk and see what's happening. There's also the disk copier, which is kind of like the easy and fast way to copy a disk as long as it doesn't have any fancy copy protection on it. And what we're going to be using at this time is the drive utilities, which lets you spin the drive and move things around, things like that. So it's just a handy way to test your drive. Now you can tell that the Supercard saw our drive because it is listed here in the device box. So to start with, I want to do a maximum track test, which is just going to move the head in and out, and we'll see how that moves. And I'm going to set the in track to about 48 because I'm not sure in this mode if it pays attention to the type of drive that you have it set to, whether it's a 48 or 96 tracks per inch. So we'll do this, and then I'll ask it to do a maximum track test. Yeah, that's not good. It's not actually moving. Oops, bumped you there. Let's take that off there where we can watch it move. Got it set to the maximum of in track of 48. Do maximum track test. Yeah, it's not moving at all. It doesn't look like the heads are damaging the disc though. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to say that either it got damaged in shipment or the seller was just fibbing and didn't actually try this out, because it obviously does not work as it sits here right now. So I'll disconnect everything and manually move this back and forth to see what the situation is. Now I'm going to manually rotate the stepper motor that moves the head. And it's really nasty dirty in there. Okay, yeah, this was obviously not working. I removed the PC-XT-AT compatibility jumper. I don't know if that really makes a difference, but after moving that back and forth once by hand and loosening it up, it'll actually move some now. If I do the maximum track test, yeah, see now it didn't do anything again. Try a speed test. So it's doing 300 RPM, which is right. Try a disk media test. Yeah, it's not moving as it should. It's going back and forth. Okay, so now we're going to clean this bad boy up. Here is the drive. It's full of dust bunnies, and I notice that it's cracked in this corner here from the crap packaging job, and the grease is all gunked up. I don't think this had been actually tested. I don't think the ad was accurate. So now we'll start taking this apart so we can clean it up. So I've already taken the cover off this area, and I'm keeping the screws with that because the screws that are going to be in this area by where the drive are typically shorter, so you don't want to get them mixed up. And what I want to do to start with is get this front cover off here so I can clean up this area properly. The problem is that the handle here is put on in such a manner that you can't get it off without destroying things, so we need to take off this unit and the front cover all at one time, which is actually not that difficult. What we want to do is remove these screws. And I'm going to remove this screw, and I'm keeping these kind of set out separately on the left-hand side here, so as not to get them mixed up. Another screw here as well. Another thing to keep in mind about this style drive, it has this interlock. That's what I just took loose here. Unless you have a disc in here, it won't let you close it. The first one of these I bought, somebody had tried to force that closed and broke it. When the disc goes in, it hits the bottom of this lever, which tips it forward. Then you can close this. So what we're removing is that closing lever. And we'll flip this over where you can see it. I'm going to very carefully pry these tabs up. Just enough to slip them over there. We don't want to break them. Just like that. If anybody knows a better way to get the front off of these, I would love to hear it. This is the only thing I could come up with. Just walk that off like that, and this shaft will come out like so, and you can pull this whole thing out as a unit. Okay, now that we have that out, I want to get the circuit board loose, and you need to take the whole LED loose like this, because it does not plug in. And although the connectors should only be able to plug in one way, I still like to mark them. It's a good habit to get into. At least you know which side is up, if you should have any doubt later. Then I'm going to use a small flat blade screwdriver to slip in here and just carefully pry those out. You want to be careful not to tug on the wires too awfully much. You might pull a wire loose. Try a smaller screwdriver on that one. There we go. Just enough to get it motivated to move. And on some of these, it goes through notches in the circuit board. The wires do. Okay. Oh, that one is really, really tight. I bent the pin. Okay, with our wiring disconnected, gonna remove the circuit board. Now, if my previous experience holds, all of these are going to be the same length of screw. So I'll set them all in the same locale. And there's only 2 of them on this one. Wiggle those out of there, and now I've got the circuit board off. And I got a little dust bunny straggling there. This is a little dirty, but looks okay. Doesn't look like there's any capacitors damaged or anything. You note these have jumpers here. You need to double check that against the list, which I will link to. That's from the Supercard Pro forum. That will get you started in the right orientation for the jumpers. Now I can see these are bent over a little bit here. Pardon my boarding house reach. No doubt this is from the craptastic packaging job. There we go. This is a new little circuit board here. The other ones I've taken apart don't have that. That is some separate little logic board that goes to the motor. Hey, right here is an actual bug in the works. Dead crusty spider. Now that we have the workings here exposed, I'm going to take this out to the garage and blow out the dust bunnies with the air compressor. And then we'll come back and we'll clean up the moving bits with some alcohol, and we'll apply a little lubrication as needed, and we'll clean the heads. And we'll clean up the cover here and try to repair this damage. And we'll put it all back together, and hopefully it'll work. Okay, we have the majority of the dust bunnies blown out of here. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some alcohol on a little Q-tip here. Clean off this rail and the worm gear. This was particularly crusty. I find sometimes alternating between that alcohol soaked in and a dry end. Now I'm going to rotate this. It's actually back all the way right there. Now, for my aging eyeballs, I always have to take my glasses off. Look in close. I hope my big Charlie Brown head is not blocking your view. Okay, so now that we have the slidey bits cleaned up, I'm going to take a little bit of lithium grease. Don't need a lot, so I'll wipe off the excess. And I'm going to put some light oil on a Q-tip, just a few drops, and wipe that over the guide shaft here. Okay, that's moving pretty smoothly now. Bring him all the way back. Lubricate the other end of our rail. Make sure we have a little bit of lithium grease on this end too. Okay, that should be good on the grease. So go ahead and pull this bad boy back. Oh, you can see a little schmaltz. Still just on the edge there. Yeah, so just moving that back and forth a few more times has worked some more junk out of there. Oh, that was really nasty. Even after all that cleaning, adding some fresh lubrication has encouraged more junk to come out. Now the grease looks fairly clean, and at this end right here, that is a little brass bushing. Try to get this over here where I'm not going to drip it on the drive. I'll put a drop of oil on the tip of my screwdriver. Touch it right down there to that shaft. That'll transfer it to that bushing. We'll let that soak in there. Don't need a lot of lubrication. Okay, now we need to try to get the rest of this drive body clean. Got some cleanser on a rag. I'm going to try to get the dust off the top of this with, yeah, that's a little more effective. Use the screwdriver point to get into the cracks. Yeah, that's just filthy in there. I have to go ahead and take this top plate off on this one. Should just be these 4 screws. This one might be a little longer. And that does not look critical for alignment. No, those were all the same length. Okay. Sneak that out from under the head. And yeah, this part doesn't have anything to do with the head alignment, so we're okay. This was just really dusty in here. This is the part that contacts the disc surface. Give that a good clean. And we'll wipe down this part. This hub here is actually the motor. The nice thing about these drives is they are a 360K drive, so they'll work for all your old stuff, but they don't have belts and whatnot. Now, while we've got this easy access, go ahead and take a clean Q-tip. Carefully open up. And give the top and bottom heads a nice scrub. And we'll get all that area around them too. And I'm going to get a second brand new Q-tip and go over the heads again. Very gently. Now this top spindle here also has a bushing. So I'm going to do the same type of thing here as we did before. So I'll put a drop of oil on my screwdriver and transfer that to the shaft. Spin that around by hand. Let it go up and down a few times to lubricate that like that did. We've got to sneak it in here around the head. That. This arm is what lifts the top head up. And all four of these screws that hold this top plate on are the same. Okay, now I'm going to push this down so this is lining up on the drive spindle below. And then I'll tighten these four screws. Now the Panasonic JU-475 drives are very, very similar. The mechanisms are almost the same. The heads and the control boards are different. This, I don't want to risk taking it to the sink and losing parts. And there's not that much of it, so just give it a little bath right here in place. First trick to cleaning is use a cleaner that matches what you're cleaning and that is as mild as you can get away with and do an effective job. That way you don't risk damaging stuff. Now I will take some denatured alcohol . Just gently clean the surface of the board. You can't just take a toothbrush and do this because you're just smearing it all around. You've got to give it a place to go. If you have something like a piezo speaker or something like that, microphone, electric microphone, you want to make sure you don't get any liquid into that. Okay, now we'll wait for the board to dry and the front cover glue to cure, and then we'll put it back together. Now our circuit board is all dried off, so we'll try to get that put on first. Let's see, these two wires snap through that hole. Here's a good reason for marking what you're doing, because it's kind of hard to tell on this connector what's what, but I see my mark here. And I actually noticed after I had the circuit board off that this plug is keyed, so it'll only go in one way. Okay, so we've got all of our connectors plugged in. That looks good. We have our front cover, which sits here sort of like this. That shaft goes in that bushing. I'm going to start one screw in there. Rotate him over. Get these bottom ones snapped in place. So I managed to take this off here and clean everything without destroying it. And we even glued that corner back together. So it's not 100% cosmetically perfect, but okay. Thought I'd keep you above the drive here. I've got a disc in, as you can see, and we'll see what this should do now and what it should sound like now once it's actually functional, cleaned and lubricated and whatnot. This is the maximum track test. And okay. What it's doing is it's running it forward and then back and checking the home sensor and seeing how far it can go without stalling out. And it's telling me the maximum track is 43, but this part of the software thinks this is a 96 track per inch drive, so this is actually okay. So I'm going to set the end track to 48 and tell it to erase the disk. You can see it sounds correct now. It's not making all sorts of nasty sounds. It's making reasonable step sizes. Try a disk media test. This is just moving the head forward, writing and reading. So this should give us pretty good confidence that this thing is reading and writing properly. So luckily, with a good cleanup, despite the crappy shipping, this drive is okay. The other option you have under the disk utilities is the alignment mode. And when you click that on, you put your disk in, it'll start spinning the disk. Then you can use the slider here at the top for the track to manually move the head to any track position you want to test for alignment or just to see how it works. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at using the Supercard Pro to help diagnose and troubleshoot an old school floppy drive. I found this a very easy way to do this. I didn't have to dig out an old computer and try to rig up the drive inside and figure out how to get some special software on it to run the drive or move it and things like that while having the drive hanging out. This was just really super easy to do this. I could do it right here on the bench, plug it right into my PC. It made the job very fast. In an upcoming video, we'll take a look at using the Supercard Pro for its main intended purpose, which is imaging disk. As I mentioned at the beginning, I've already used it to image about 130 Commodore 64 disks, which were my original disks from my childhood, so they're 30 plus years old. And I was able to actually recover some disks that I couldn't using the Zoom floppy and a traditional Commodore disk drive like a 1571. Now, of course, this will also image IBM disk, Amiga disk, things like that. And if your disk has some copy protection like the old Commodore 64 disk had a lot of times, you can go in and use the analyzer tool to figure out where the half tracks and things like that are to be able to copy those. But that's a lot more involved. For the simple imaging of your own disk or your backup copies, it's a lot simpler than that, and it's a pretty painless process. So we'll get to that here in another week or so. If you're a subscriber, thanks, I really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. If you're not, what the heck are you waiting on? If you look down below, you'll see a rectangular box that says subscribe. Just click on that, dude, and you'll be subscribed. And if you click on the bell-shaped icon, YouTube will be nice enough to let you know just as soon as I post a new video. And if you want to support the channel, look down below for my subscribe star and soon to be my Patreon account information. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I would love to hear from you. And until next time, bye.